Hey, what's up, everybody? Uh, Hope everybody had a good week last week. I know things to the seem sketchy. I know that for sure for the Oilfield anyway. But I've got some things I'd like to talk about. I know I've said before. I've kind of shared with y'all about how I like to study. I like to kind of read the New Testament. I'll read a lot of the New Testament, and then I can relate that the instructions that the New Testament gives us, which most of it was written by Paul, so a lot of it is instructions written to other churches and different audiences, but it's mainly instructions, and you can apply that to you can look back in the stories of the Old Testament, all the historical stories. We can apply those instructions, to the backdrop of those. So what got me thinking about that, which I'm reading in Proverbs now, which I know it's not New Testament, but it's the same thing. It's a book of instructions, mainly from Solomon, which is super wise dude. We've went over that a few times, but anyhow, it's a book of instructions, and it's kind of the same concept. I can go back and forth to it, and where I'm reading now is in Genesis. I've been reading about Abraham, and the verse that I'm looking at this week is Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. I'll read it first, and then we'll go into what I was saying, how it goes back to the Old Testament. But it's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, and it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take." And a little background, just short and sweet, of Abraham is that, whenever he obviously struggled with a lot of things. I mean, he's one of the, he's a forefather of us, obviously, but I mean, we can look back at his stories, and he had trouble trusting. Obviously, that was a big deal. He had trouble trusting in the Lord. Whenever he went to Egypt, he lied to Pharaoh and said that Sarah was his sister, which comes out later in the book of Genesis that she was technically his half sister. But at the time, though, he done that twice. Well, she's my sister, and then both times the Lord came to the leaders and told them, hey, you're fixing to sin against God. And so he didn't trust that God would take care of him then. And we see that he was back and forth with his trusting. And I know that we're going to be back and forth. He trusted God whenever Lot was captured. He trusted God and took 318 men and just totally wiped out this other army, that had taken Lot and all the members of Lot's families and all that from Sodom and held them captive. So Abraham took 318 men, trusted in the Lord and listened to the instructions and depended on the Lord, and he went and the Lord provided for him. So we can see both sides of this. Abraham, when he didn't trust the Lord, things kind of backfired. They all panned out in the long run anyway, but they kind of backfired. But when he did trust in the Lord, amazing things happened. 318 men, taking out armies that other countries couldn't do, and he's got 318 of his servants, his kids, or his servants and his servants' kids, and there they are doing work on these folks. So what I'd like to say, going back to the verse, is 3, 5 through 6 in Proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. A lot of times our understanding is earthly based. We understand that, if 2 plus 2 equals 4, it's got to be 4. But that's our understanding. We can't just lean on that. We have to realize that God is supernatural. God's going to do things that we can't imagine, and we have to have faith. We can't depend on our understanding. We can't depend on the things that we want to happen. A lot of times we tend to make God small and put Him in a container, and we depend on our own understanding and want Him to fit into that, and that's not how we should do things. We have to seek His will in all we do, whether it be job decisions, whether it be life decisions, anything we have to do, we have to seek His will, and once we put His will first, then it's going to come back. We're trusting that His will is going to be for our good, and that's how it's always going to be. That's how it was for Abraham. That's how it was from the book of Genesis on through, and that's how it's going to be for us. God has our heart in mind. It's not like He's, God loves us. He looks out for us, each and every one of us, but we are to listen to His instructions, and we are to depend on Him with our whole heart. He loves us. He's our Father. We have to remember that when things seem too rough to bear, our God's bigger than all these things. And we have to trust in the Lord, and He's going to take care of us. I firmly believe it. He did it for Abraham. He'll do it for us. So keep praying, everybody. Keep praying for the Oilfield. Keep praying for our country. Pray for our leaders. Pray for our troops. I hope everybody has a good week. I hope everybody keeps applying the things that we read and the things that we talk about. I can't stress enough staying in the Bible. It helps tremendously. So if there's any way that I can pray for you, message me or put it in the comments or whatever. I'd love to pray for y'all. I hope everybody has a good week, and I'll talk to y'all next week.